I get that some of y'all want to act like victims 24/7, but it comes to a point where you're going to have to start having conversations with people who upset you. Instead of spending your time calling everybody a racist, a bigot, a transphobe, a sexist, misogynist, and all these different buzzwords because you think an insult is the greatest counterpoint to an actual argument, actually sit your stupid ass down and learn to talk with people, understand why they're doing the things they're doing that upset you, and try to have some form of a fucking brain that allows you to listen to somebody instead of just constantly talking about how much you're right and how everybody else is wrong. Cultural appropriation is defined as the inappropriate or unacknowledged adoption of an element or elements of one culture or identity by members of another culture or identity. This could be controversial when members of a dominant culture, the whites, appropriate from minority cultures. Examples of it are intellectual property, artifacts, dance, clothing, language, music, food, religious symbols. But whenever it's a white person seemingly appropriating from a black person, it always has to do with the hair and box braids. And you have a lot of people who will sit down and explain why this is something that white people shouldn't do, why this is cultural appropriation. And I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the emotionally damaged fools that get online and cry once they see something that upsets them.
Some black people could please stop scrolling and join me for today's edition of Ooh, I think that's racist. I would much appreciate it because I have a little story for you. So recently I was at the salon and my awesome stylist while I was there decided to introduce me to the owner. And this woman was very lovely. She was about a 50-something white woman, really kind, but this woman had box braids all the way to her waist. White woman. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but like that's appropriation, right? That's bad. We don't do that. And honestly, like I didn't know what to say. Like what do you say to that? It's not like she was mean or anything, but she was clearly, Black people, you're pretty chilled out because us white people seem to always have our hands in your cookie jar, and you haven't slaughtered us all. Thank you. We're dicks. So that's racist, right? Or at least appropriation? Let me know.
And if you are going to sit here and say I'm being offensive, I'm disrespecting you, I don't care about you, you're right. Because you're not taking the time to sit down and trying to understand somebody. Because guess what? Everybody is not interested in making money off of box braids. If somebody's out there who is white, is selling some poor made box braids, then you could talk about a cultural appropriating. But if somebody went into a hair salon and said, give me some box braids, and they just walk out with box braids, then that's just having a fucking hairstyle, not disrespecting your culture. But if any reaction you have is something similar to what I'm about to show you, you have a fucking problem and you need to get fucking addressed.
5 young teenage girls are charged in the brutal beating of a young woman in downtown Crossing. Witnesses say as many as 20 teens swarmed that victim before the attack. Boston 25 News reporter Drew Creed is live in downtown Crossing, where Drew, police say it's a group really been harassing the area for a few weeks now.
Carrie, investigators say teenagers have been attacking people and vandalizing businesses here in downtown Crossing. Witnesses say as many as 20 teen girls as young as 12 pounced on a young woman, punching and stomping on her, all apparently because of her hairstyle.
I see them chasing after her, pounding on her, knocked her off her bike and just got on her and kicking her, punching her.
The unprovoked attack that Christopher Jackson says he witnessed by the flower stand he works at involved a large group of violent teenage girls and a young woman who was trying to get away from them.
And I heard them saying something to the white girl. She had braids. The one that they beat up.
A police report says the attacker shouted white expletive with braids before the beatdown near the intersection of Washington and Winter Streets Monday night just before 7. When witnesses tried to intervene, police say the teens got violent with them too.
And they were going after them. I mean, little girls after adults.
A responding officer says one of those girls yelled at him, "What you want to do?" before being met with a sudden punch to his face. A police report says the teens also attacked other responding officers and hurled racially motivated insults at them. And what's reportedly just the latest in a recent barrage of juvenile incidents in the area involving fighting, disturbances inside businesses, vandalism, assaults on citizens and police officers, and civil rights violations.
They always here, they always fight. And I was called the cop.
The owner of Black Seed Cafe says the cops were called to his restaurant last month for a wild fight involving teens. And just 2 days before that, police say aggressive teens attacked an 81-year-old man inside a nearby McDonald's. Earlier that same day, investigators allege that a group of juveniles began shouting Black Lives Matter inside Silvertone Bar after the staff there refused to serve them alcohol. Police say those teenagers spat on an employee and customers before shattering the front door of the establishment.
Customer didn't want to come here because of them. It would be nice if they take care of them.
It's pretty concerning for people who live in this area, and tonight police are stepping up patrols here. Police are now keeping a closer eye on Downtown Crossing after this new video emerges showing a disturbing attack that unfolded Monday evening before the sun went down.
Pretty upset about it, not something you want to see.
Neighbors are appalled by the broad daylight attack. Police say a group of teens, along with a 12-year-old, punched and kicked the female victim, who lay helpless on the sidewalk, crying out in pain.
That was baffling, honestly. It was incredible to see that because I've never seen any type of thing like that in my life ever.
Investigators say the 20-year-old victim says she was targeted because of her hairstyle.
It is shocking, and it's troublesome because obviously you don't want to go out in your neighborhood where you live outside of your door and seeing something like that happening.
The vicious attack is just one in a series of troubling crimes in this area in the last few weeks. Neighbors and businesses welcome the police response and hope it will calm the wave of violence.
I always see the police around, so I feel more protected, obviously.
You can't give me a rhyme or a reason as to condone a bunch of people jumping somebody all over box braids. You can try to bring up all the slavery mentality. You can try to bring up how much you're a loser who has to deal with all white people. You can talk about how you're oppressed, but nothing is going to condone somebody jumping somebody else over a fucking hairstyle. At that point, it's not that fucking important, and anybody who's acting on that and defending that should be fucking ashamed of themselves. But if I'm going to end this on any little note, it's gonna go like this. If you got a problem with anybody, stop throwing the buzzwords, stop bitching on Twitter, actually hold the conversation. If you can't do that, then you're an emotionally damaged little bird who needs to spend more time outside touching some grass. And I just want to point out, because it needs to be pointed out in this time of everybody thinking that there's no black person who could be a perpetrator, isn't it interesting that when the cops showed up to make sure things go smoothly, you had people in the neighborhood proudly saying that they're happy that the cops are there to protect them and not have a bunch of random ass teenagers jump them?
I always see the police around, so I feel more protected, obviously. I feel more protected, obviously. I feel more protected, obviously.
I wonder who's gonna bitch about that. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.